With Pokemon Sword and Shield now out, it's been great to see everyone's positive reactions to the game, and in particular, it's awesome to see people interacting with and getting to use all of the new Pokemon. Obviously, being introduced to new Pokemon and getting to use new Pokemon is one of the most fun parts about any new Pokemon game, and personally, I love to see who everybody's favorite Pokemon are, just because it seems like everyone has a different favorite that they really enjoy, which I think is awesome. However, there is also a grim underbelly to this kind of discussion and fun, because with every new Pokemon generation for all of the amazing Pokemon that we get, we also get some that aren't as good as they probably could be. And that is what I'm going to be talking about in today's video as I go over my personal top 5 worst Galar Pokemon. Now obviously this is an opinion piece, so if you disagree that's perfectly fine, and I'm not trying to offend anyone here, I just wanted to personally state which Pokemon I dislike the most out of this generation, and tell you why I personally think they are not a very good Pokemon. So with that brief explanation of everything out of the way, why don't we go ahead and just get to it. At number 5, I have Inteleon, and I personally don't really like Inteleon for a multitude of different reasons. The first thing that turned me off to this Pokemon was its posture combined with its very skinny body. The way that it stands in its idle animation is very human-like, to the point where it's almost unsettling and unnerving considering this is a giant chameleon monster. So that's the main reason why I don't like Inteleon, but the other thing that kind of bugs me about it is its whole secret agent thing it's got going on. Don't get me wrong, that is a fine theme for a Pokemon to have, but with Inteleon, it literally came out of nowhere and makes no sense whatsoever with its evolutionary family. For example, you start off with Sobble, and Sobble is not only extremely cute, but its whole getup is that it's an emotional, kind of sad boy type of Pokemon. And then it evolves into Drizzile, where it keeps this emotional theme, where it's kind of like an emo-ish Pokemon, which makes a lot of sense considering it's the middle evolution. But then when it evolves into Inteleon, it literally drops all of that and picks up a secret agent vibe. Like, where did that come from? That has no business being with this Pokemon, and you had a good thing going with all of the emotion stuff with the pre-evolutions that you completely dropped for this thing that kind of just bum-rushed its way into Inteleon's design that makes no sense whatsoever. So between that and its awkward human appearance, I am just not a fan of Inteleon at all. At number 4, we have a Pokemon that pretty much suffers from the same thing that Inteleon does, and that would be Haderine. Case in point, I think it looks too much like a person. Now, once again, don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily opposed to Pokemon that have a human-like body structure, say like Gardevoir or Machoke, for instance. The difference with Haderine, though, is that I think it takes it a little too far in the human direction, and my prime example for this would be its hairstyle. Its hairstyle is very much that of a female human's hairstyle, and when I look at this Pokemon face to face, it just feels like I'm looking at an actual human person, and I just don't really like that. Like I said, I know there are plenty of other human-like Pokemon that I personally don't have any problem with, and the only explanation I have for that is I think those Pokemon kind of do the Pokemon human-like balance a little bit better than Haderine is doing in this situation. And as a final note, the other reason why I don't really like Haderine is that I absolutely love both of its pre-evolutions, so when it evolves into Haderine, it was kind of a disappointment for me personally, so much so that I took it off of my team in my initial playthrough of Shield version, and for that disappointment, it's another reason why I don't like it. Right in the middle at number 3 would be none other than Stonjourner. Now, if there is one thing that I would say is somewhat redeemable about this Pokemon, is that it is essentially the Stonehenge Pokemon, and I am glad that they included a Stonehenge Pokemon in this generation. I just don't think they executed it well at all. Two big things for me personally when it comes to Pokemon designs are A, giving a Pokemon that Pokemon look, that unexplained thing that makes a creature look like a Pokemon, and then B, giving that Pokemon some creativity in its design, whatever that may be. So with that being said, my biggest problem with Stonejourner is it just doesn't have a lot of creativity. It's pretty much a one-to-one representation of a Stonehenge creature with nothing really done to make it look any more like an organic creature compared to the literal inanimate object structure that is Stonehenge itself. It literally is just a chunk of the Stonehenge monument, and it kind of just looks like its head is detached from its legs and kind of just sits on top of those two larger stones, and that kind of structure, once again, does not work with an organic creature, does not work with a Pokemon, so I don't know why they didn't try to get a little more creative when they were approaching this concept. I just don't think it works, and not only does it not work, it's way too one-to-one like I said earlier, so for a complete lack of creativity and overall a design that doesn't really look like an organic creature, I'm not really a big fan of Stonejourner. Coming in at the runner-up spot, we have Grimsnarl, and does anyone want to explain to me what the heck is going on here? I used this description in my opinions about every Galar Pokemon video, but this Pokemon is literally just a steroid monster. Like, what did they think they were going for? It's literally the bulk-up Pokemon as its species name, so this Pokemon is literally on steroids, and I think it looks terrible. I'm sorry if you like it, but I just think it looks awful. The other thing about this Pokemon too is that I don't know personally that it has much of the Pokemon look. It kind of just looks like your generic evil monster type of creature that you would find in some other RPG that isn't about magical creatures that you bond with and catch and befriend on a journey like Pokemon is. It just kind of doesn't look like it really has that Pokemon flavor, which is sad because I really enjoy its primary pre-evolution in Impidimp. So overall, I am just not a fan at all of the whole roid rage thing that this Pokemon has going on. I think it makes it look really ugly, and I just don't know that this Pokemon necessarily has the Pokemon flavor to it, if you will, that really makes it feel like a Pokemon in the first place. And my least favorite Pokemon in the Galar region that is probably, in my opinion, one of the new worst Pokemon of all time, if not the absolute worst, is Ice-Cube. This is literally just a penguin with a block of ice on its head. Not even necessarily a penguin Pokemon, because it doesn't even really look like a Pokemon once again, just a penguin with a block of ice on its head. With all due respect to anyone who might like this Pokemon, in my opinion, that is the epitome of uncreativity in a Pokemon design. It does not get any worse than that when it comes to lack of creativity with a Pokemon's design. The other thing about this Pokemon is that it actually has two forms, one with the block of ice on its head and the other without the block of ice on its head. And you might be saying, well, if the form with the block of ice on its head is terrible, maybe the one without isn't so bad. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't really get much better. Once Ice-Cube loses the ice on its head and its true head is revealed, it just becomes arguably even dumber in my opinion. I know it's supposed to have a derpy kind of stupid look intentionally, but it just doesn't make any sense. It looks really, really dumb in my opinion. Number one, its head is completely disproportionate to its body, even when you factor in the oversized ice that has now been removed from its head that's kind of its primary form. It still doesn't have a head that makes any sense for its large body, and secondly, it's just a regular penguin. It doesn't have anything going for it outside of that very, very tiny head that really makes it anything other than just a regular penguin creature and not an actual Pokemon based on a penguin. For instance, I think if you took this Pokemon's exact design, Ice-Cube head and everything, and did not change anything other than making the overall penguin body into a more stylized chibi-like nature, I think that would make this Pokemon infinitely better. But the fact that this Pokemon doesn't really have any Pokemon-esque design traits, and the two things that it does have to try and make it unique are its Ice Block head and its unusually small regular head, which in my opinion are extremely uncreative, just make this Pokemon easily the worst Galar Pokemon, and quite possibly one of the worst Pokemon overall that we have ever seen. So there we have it, everybody. Those are my top 5 worst Galar Pokemon. Now, I know this is very opinionated, and I know I got strong with my opinions, but at the end of the day, it's just my opinion. If you think Ice-Q or Grimsnarl or anyone else on this list is amazing and they're like your new favorite Pokemon, that's perfectly fine. One of the things I love so much about the Pokemon community and Pokemon in general is that there is a favorite Pokemon for everyone, and every Pokemon is someone's favorite. So even if some of these Pokemon are your new absolute favorites and I clearly do not like them, that is completely okay, and you are completely fine to absolutely have that opinion. Speaking of opinions though, be sure to let me know all of yours in the comments below and give this video a like if you enjoyed it. You can also subscribe if you're new for way more Pokemon content all the time, and if you'd like to support me further, you can check out my Spotify, listen to my Pokemon remixes, and check out my Pokemon Cardinal project if you have not seen it yet either. Both of those things support the channel immensely and are extremely appreciated. With all that being said though, I'll be back on Saturday with another video, so be sure to hit that notification bell so you can be notified as soon as it goes live. And with all that being said, I hope you know I love you guys very much, and until the next one, as always, I will smell you guys later.